There's a moment, quiet, almost hidden, when everything in your life begins to shift, not because the world changed, but because God has decided it is time for you to see what He placed inside you from the very beginning. And most people miss this moment. They overlook it because it doesn't come with noise, applause, or instant results. It comes like a whisper in the soul, a stirring you cannot explain, a weight that feels both heavy and sacred at the same time. God is revealing your true power, but not the kind of power the world celebrates. Not status, not control, not recognition. This is a deeper power, a spiritual authority, a divine assignment, a calling that very few truly understand, because it requires surrender before it gives strength, obedience before it reveals clarity, and faith before it shows results. You've been asking for change. You've been praying for direction. But what if the answer to your prayers is not something external, but something awakening within you? What if God is not just changing your situation, but transforming your identity? Because the truth is, your real power was never meant to be comfortable. It was never meant to fit into ordinary expectations. That's why you felt different. That's why certain paths didn't work out. That's why doors closed that you begged God to open. It wasn't rejection. It was redirection. It wasn't loss. It was preparation. God does not reveal your power all at once. If He did, it would overwhelm you. Instead, He reveals it in layers, in seasons, through trials that stretch your faith and moments that force you to trust Him even when you don't understand what He's doing. And here's where many people turn back, because the process of becoming who God called you to be will challenge everything you thought you were. It will strip away false identities. It will expose hidden fears. It will require you to walk alone at times when no one else understands your journey. But that loneliness, it is not abandonment. It is alignment. God is separating you from distractions so you can hear His voice clearly. He is removing certain people and patterns not to hurt you, but to refine you. Because your calling is not ordinary, and ordinary environments cannot sustain extraordinary purpose. There is something within you that has been dormant for too long, a strength you have underestimated, a voice you have silenced, a purpose you have questioned. And now God is saying, it is time. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but now. You may not have all the answers. You may not see the full picture, but you don't need to. Faith was never about seeing everything. It was about trusting the one who does. Your power is not in perfection. It is in obedience. Every step you take in faith activates something in the spiritual realm. Every time you choose courage over fear, you step deeper into your calling. Every time you trust God in uncertainty, you unlock another level of who you were created to be. And understand this clearly, your power is not just for you. It is meant to impact others, to bring light into darkness, to speak truth where there is confusion, to stand firm when others fall, to become a vessel through which God's presence can move in ways that cannot be explained by human understanding. But with that calling comes responsibility. You cannot carry divine power while holding on to doubt, fear, and compromise. You cannot walk in purpose while living in distraction. There must be a decision, a conscious, unwavering decision to rise above what is easy and step into what is eternal. God is not calling you to be like everyone else. He is calling you to be set apart. And that is why this message is not for everyone. Many will hear it, but few will receive it. Many will feel inspired, but few will act. Because walking in your true power requires more than emotion. It requires commitment. It requires discipline. It requires a willingness to trust God even when everything around you says to quit. So if you feel this stirring inside you right now, don't ignore it. That is not coincidence. That is calling. God is revealing something to you that few understand because few are willing to go through what it takes to carry it. But you are not chosen by accident. You were prepared through every struggle, every delay, every moment that made you question your path. And now, the season is shifting. The hidden is becoming visible. The silent is finding its voice. The waiting is turning into movement. This is your moment to step into what God has been preparing you for all along. Not with fear, not with hesitation, but with faith that what he placed inside you is greater than anything standing in your way. Because when God reveals your true power, nothing can stop what he has already ordained. There is a moment in life that does not announce itself with noise or spectacle, yet it carries the weight of eternity within it. It arrives quietly, almost unnoticeably, like a whisper brushing against your soul, stirring something deep inside that you cannot ignore. You may not understand it at first. You may try to dismiss it as emotion, as imagination, as something temporary. But it lingers. It grows. It follows you into your thoughts, into your silence, into the spaces where distractions cannot reach. This is not coincidence. This is not random. This is the beginning of awakening. God often begins his work in ways the world overlooks. While people search for signs and grand displays and visible success, he chooses the hidden place, the heart, the mind, the spirit. That is where your true power is first revealed. Not in what you do, but in who you are becoming. There's a shift happening within you, a realization that you're not meant to live on the surface, not meant to settle for ordinary understanding or ordinary purpose. Something greater is calling you, and it demands your attention in a way nothing else ever has. This awakening can feel unsettling. It disrupts your comfort. It challenges your assumptions. Things that once satisfied you begin to feel empty. Paths that once seemed clear begin to lose their meaning. You may feel out of place, disconnected, even misunderstood by those around you. But this discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is evidence that something is changing. God is pulling you away from what is familiar so he can introduce you to what is eternal. There's a reason you feel different. There's a reason certain doors have closed and certain opportunities have slipped away despite your efforts. It is not failure. It is not rejection. It is alignment. God is recalibrating your life, positioning you in a way that reflects the purpose he has placed inside you. What feels like loss is often divine protection. What feels like delay is often preparation. The awakening process requires you to see beyond the immediate and trust in what is unseen. As this awareness grows, you begin to recognize that your identity is not defined by your past, your circumstances, or the opinions of others. There is something deeper, something unshakable being formed within you. A sense of calling begins to take shape, even if you cannot fully articulate it. You start to realize that your life carries meaning beyond what you can measure, beyond what you can control. This is where many people become afraid, because awakening demands a response. It asks you to step away from comfort and move toward purpose. It invites you to let go of who you thought you were so you can embrace who God is calling you to be. It is not an easy transition, but it is a necessary one. The stirring within you is not meant to be ignored or suppressed. It is meant to be acknowledged, nurtured, and followed with faith, even when clarity has not yet fully arrived. The refining process rarely looks the way people expect it to look. It does not arrive wrapped in comfort or clarity, and it does not move according to your preferred timeline. Instead, it unfolds through pressure, through stretching, through moments that force you to confront parts of yourself you would rather avoid. It is in these moments that God begins to shape you, not by adding more to your life, but by removing what cannot go where you are being called. There's a breaking that happens before there is a building. Patterns you once relied on begin to fall apart. Habits that once felt normal start to feel heavy and out of place. Relationships that once brought familiarity begin to shift or fade. This is not punishment. This is refinement. God is separating you from what no longer aligns with your purpose. What feels like loss is often a necessary release, making room for something stronger, something purer, something aligned with your calling. The process is not comfortable because growth itself is not comfortable. You are being stretched beyond your previous limits, asked to trust in ways you have never trusted before. There will be moments when you feel uncertain, when you question whether you're moving forward or simply losing your footing. But even in that uncertainty, there is intention. Every challenge carries a purpose. Every delay holds a lesson. Every moment of discomfort is shaping your capacity to carry what is ahead. There is also a loneliness that often accompanies refinement. Not because you're meant to be isolated, but because not everyone is meant to walk with you in every season. As God begins to elevate your understanding and deepen your faith, there may be fewer people who fully relate to what you are experiencing. Conversations change. Priorities shift. The things that once connected you to others may no longer hold the same meaning. This can feel heavy, but it is part of the alignment process. God is teaching you to rely on Him in ways that do not depend on external validation. In this season, your character is being tested and strengthened. Patience is no longer optional. It becomes essential. Discipline is no longer something you consider. It becomes something you practice daily. Faith is no longer a concept. It becomes a necessity. You begin to understand that your power is not found in ease, but in endurance, not in avoiding difficulty, but in growing through it. There are moments when the process feels slow, when it seems like nothing is changing despite all the internal work taking place. But refinement is often invisible before it becomes visible. Just as gold is purified through fire, your strength is being developed in ways that cannot always be seen immediately. What matters is not how it looks in the moment, but what it produces over time. God is not rushing this process because He is building something that must last. If He were to place you into your calling without refining you first, the weight of it could break you. So He prepares you carefully, intentionally, allowing each challenge to add depth, resilience, and clarity to your journey. Even when it feels difficult, even when it feels like too much, there's a purpose behind every step, shaping you into someone who can carry divine responsibility with strength and integrity. There comes a point in the journey where awareness is no longer enough, where understanding must turn into action. You begin to realize that what God is placing before you requires more than emotion or inspiration. It requires obedience. Not partial obedience that depends on convenience, not delayed obedience that waits for perfect conditions, but a steady, consistent response to His voice even when it stretches you beyond what feels natural. Obedience often begins in small, quiet decisions that seem insignificant at first. It is choosing to listen when everything around you is loud. It is choosing discipline when distractions are easier. It is choosing integrity when no one is watching. These moments do not always feel powerful, but they're the very foundation of the power God is building within you. Because true spiritual authority is not formed in public recognition, it is formed in private surrender. There will be times when what God asks of you does not make sense to your logic. The direction may seem unclear, the timing may feel off, and the outcome may not be visible. This is where obedience becomes a test of trust. You're no longer relying on what you can calculate or control. You are stepping into a place where faith becomes your guide, where you move not because you have all the answers, but because you trust the one who does. This kind of obedience requires letting go of the need to understand everything before you act. It challenges your desire for certainty and replaces it with dependence. You begin to recognize that clarity often follows movement, not the other way around. As you take steps forward, even small ones, God begins to reveal more. Each act of obedience unlocks another layer of direction, another glimpse into the purpose He is unfolding in your life. There's also a refining of your motives that takes place in this stage. You start to question why you do what you do. Is it for approval, for recognition, for comfort, or is it truly aligned with God's will? Obedience purifies these intentions. It shifts your focus from external outcomes to internal alignment. You begin to act not for what you can gain, but for what you are called to become. This path is not without resistance. There will be moments when fear tries to hold you back, when doubt tries to cloud your judgment, when the opinions of others try to influence your direction. But obedience requires you to rise above these voices. It calls you to remain anchored in what God has spoken to your spirit, even when everything around you suggests otherwise. As you continue in obedience, something begins to change within you. Confidence grows, not in yourself alone, but in your relationship with God. You start to recognize His guidance more clearly, to trust His timing more deeply. What once felt difficult begins to feel natural, not because the path has become easier, but because you have become stronger, more aligned, more willing to follow wherever He leads. There's a shift that takes place when preparation gives way to movement, when everything that has been forming within you begins to express itself through the way you live, speak, and respond to the world around you. Walking in divine purpose is not a sudden transformation into perfection, but a steady alignment between who you are becoming and what God has called you to carry. It is the point where your inner conviction starts to shape your outward actions with clarity and intention. You begin to move differently, not out of pressure, but awareness. Decisions are no longer driven solely by impulse or external expectations, but by a deeper sense of direction that anchors you. Even when the path is unfamiliar, there's a quiet confidence guiding you forward. You're no longer waiting for permission from others to step into what you know has been placed inside you. There's a boldness that grows, not loud or forceful, but firm and unwavering. This stage requires consistency. Purpose is not fulfilled in a single moment. It is lived out daily through choices that reflect your calling. Every action becomes meaningful, whether seen or unseen. The way you treat people, the way you handle challenges, the way you remain grounded in faith, even when circumstances shift, all of it becomes part of the expression of your purpose. There is no separation between the spiritual and the practical anymore. Your life itself becomes the message. You also begin to understand the weight of influence. Your words carry impact. Your presence affects environments. The strength that has been built within you is not meant to be hidden, but it must be handled with humility. Walking in divine purpose is not about elevating yourself above others. It is about serving in a way that reflects something greater than yourself. The authority you carry is rooted in responsibility, in the awareness that what flows through you is meant to uplift, guide, and bring clarity where there is confusion. Challenges do not disappear in this stage. If anything, they may become more complex, but your response to them changes. You are no longer easily shaken by obstacles because your foundation has been strengthened. There is a resilience that allows you to remain steady, a perspective that helps you see beyond immediate difficulties. What once would have discouraged you now becomes an opportunity to apply what you have learned, to stand firm in what you believe, to continue moving forward without losing direction. There's also a deep sense of alignment that begins to settle within you. You recognize that your journey, with all its twists and turns, has been leading you to this place. The confusion, the delays, the refining, they were not random. They were necessary steps that prepared you to walk with clarity and purpose. You no longer feel the need to compare your path to others, because you understand that your calling is specific, intentional, and uniquely designed. As you continue in this walk, there's an ongoing process of growth. Purpose is not a destination you arrive at and remain unchanged. It is a path that continues to unfold, requiring you to stay connected, to remain attentive, to keep choosing alignment even as new challenges and opportunities arise. You learn to move with awareness, to listen more deeply, to act with intention, allowing your life to become a reflection of the calling you have embraced.